CYWINK's sister, Sonia, was murdered in 1994, yet she had so little faith in the national inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, she chose not to testify.
Families wanted the police killings that had taken place investigated. They wanted their missing brought home. So those kinds of things were never able to be, were not able to have been answered with this inquiry.
It's not that there hadn't long been calls for a specific investigation into the disproportionate violence directed at Indigenous women in Canada. Just 4% of the population, but 16% of reported nationwide homicides. Justin Trudeau followed through on his campaign pledge and announced the inquiry in 2015. And the inquiry's goal was not simply long-awaited official recognition of decades of brutality.
The work that we're going to be doing is research into systemic causes for the murders and the disappearances.
After 2.5 years and $68 million, it appears that the inquiry will basically state the obvious. The problem lies in the economic and social marginalization of Indigenous communities, institutional racism, violence and indifference, and the all-out, quite overt cultural war waged against the Indigenous by the Canadian state. HILDA ANDERSON-PYRZ's sister Dawn was found dead in 2011, her body badly bruised, but authorities blamed exposure due to intoxication. Like many, she's critical of how rushed the inquiry seemed as it parachuted into communities without building trust and asked for painful testimony in an institutional setting reminiscent of the judicial system that's long attacked the Indigenous. Nonetheless, she found testifying to the inquiry worthwhile.
For many, they never shared their story with anybody prior to the national inquiry coming forward, and they felt that they could take their story and leave it there and move forward in their healing process.
HILDA is skeptical, but feels it's a disservice to all those who, like her, shared their truth to dismiss the possibility that the inquiry will lead to meaningful change. Just getting this message out is an achievement.
I think it's really important as Canadians to recognize that many Indigenous women and girls who live in First Nation communities are living in third world conditions.
But while few will dispute the reported findings of the inquiry, some wonder what good any recommendations will be if the federal and provincial governments are the ones expected to be in charge of implementation.
It's a colonial government executing to a colonial government, and that is the reason why we have missing and murder. It's genocide.
Canada is not the only country built on colonial violence, genocide, as the inquiry has reportedly found. But the government does have yet another opportunity to address that legacy on Monday. Shihab, Rattansi, Jazeera, Ottawa.